Today, I'm gonna tell you about the Reaper software. Many lighting programmers use this software to prepare timecode shows. Reaper has a big variety of options and might look like a very complicated software for people with no experience working with audio software, as it is intended for professional music recording and mixing, and it's also used by musicians to play backing tracks during live performances. That's why I'm gonna tell you about the most basic options and settings that might be needed for timecode signal generation and playback for both pre-programming and using Reaper as a timecode player for your show, and using Reaper markers for further import onto the timeline of your console, and to create an empty cue list with markers timing. These options are available in many lighting consoles and they can help you with the preparation of your timecode show. First of all, I want to tell you about the necessity of getting the source audio files in the correct version. This primarily applies to working with a music band, when backing tracks along with the timecode are started by one of the musicians on stage, and the timecode file needs to be imported into the project with the backing tracks after your pre-programming. I always ask the band to make a rehearsal recording of the song and send me this recording along with the click track of this song. These two tracks must be synchronized with each other, so that I can insert the two separate files at the beginning of the project without any additional manipulations. Now I'm gonna show you what I mean. So, you see a new empty project, Reaper version 7.33 for Windows. To add our audio files into the project, we just need to drag and drop files from the folder onto the working space. First of all, I import the song file. And we can see that the first track in our project is created and automatically named after the audio file. Next, I add the click track to the project, just like I did with the song file. Then I will create two extra empty tracks to import timecode into these tracks later. Here in this area, press right click and then select Insert New Track. Just move it here and repeat it, and we are going to name these tracks. Press double click in this area and type MIDI timecode here and LTC timecode for track number 4. If we look at the beginning of our project, zoom in a little bit by scrolling the mouse wheel, we can see that the song starts after the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at the 9th click sound. This 8-click gap is kind of a standard among musicians for preparing backtracks for live performances. This is the very way we need to get these two tracks, so as we don't have to move them somehow to synchronize them in our project. We don't have to do something like this, so we have to get it in this way. The click track in our project helps us to synchronize the timecode track with the music in the Reaper project. The beginning of the timecode track will match with the beginning of the click track. Also, the click track helps with the identification and understanding of musical accents, such as stop times or drum breaks, in labeling these music events with Reaper markers. If you are programming timecode not for a live music performance, but for instance for a lighting intro show at an event that only has a music track and no a click track, it's very important to set your timecode track 2-3 seconds before the music starts, which will allow your console to synchronize the timecode correctly. I'm gonna show you what I mean. For example, we will delete the click track, select the click track and press delete on the keyboard. Press OK. Let's imagine that we got a song like this. And there are no several seconds of silence in the beginning. After we have added the track to the project, We need to move the file start time 2-3 seconds later, just move like this, and then insert the timecode track in the beginning of the project. These first 2 seconds of the project will be needed for the timecode to synchronize with your lighting console, so your show will play back accurately. The next step is adding the timecode track to our project. Before doing this, I want to explain some theory about different timecode types. There are 2 types of timecode signal, MIDI and LTC timecode. MIDI timecode provides digital synchronization by transmitting timecode information as a MIDI signal. LTC is an analog method of timecode synchronization recorded as an audio signal. To choose the right timecode, first check your console's options. Some consoles can work with only one type of timecode signal. Then consider your show. A live band or pre-recorded audio for an open ceremony might require a different type of timecode. From my experience, MIDI timecode is most convenient when the timecode player is near the lighting console and you start the show yourself. The advantage of using MIDI timecode is no latency compared to LTC timecode, and also MIDI timecode can be sent via relatively inexpensive MIDI interfaces and cables, or in some cases over a network. However, long-distance MIDI timecode transmission requires additional equipment. LTC timecode is most convenient for live music setups, because usually you have a simple setup for sending timecode over a long distance, no extra equipment needed. LTC signal with all backtracks is sent to the sound mixing 4 console and then just goes to the lighting console by XLR cable. As for LTC cons, with some consoles you might experience latency compared to MTC. Another challenge is that comfortable pre-programming requires a multi-channel sound interface. We are going to add a timecode track into our project. Select our empty track, which has been prepared before. Then select Insert menu and select SMPTE LTC MTC timecode generator. And now we can see that the timecode track has appeared, but it does not go until the end of the song. So we should change the scale of the workspace and use the mouse to extend the timecode track till the end. After that, we are opening settings of the timecode track. Right-click on the track and select Source Properties. Now we can see the timecode settings. We can select the timecode type. Now we choose MIDI, frame rate. Usually I use 25 FPS or 30 FPS. And we can set up start time here. Start time is a very important setting if you work with a large number of songs by one band or singer. Start time parameters are hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. I recommend to start a new song with a 10-minute gap. This gap is enough for almost all modern songs. Set up the settings and press OK. If you want to use LTC timecode, you can simply change the timecode in the settings of our generated timecode track. Right-click on the track, Source Properties, and change the timecode type here. However, I prefer using generated audio files with LTC timecode from a third-party website. This helps to avoid the extra work of rendering LTC timecode audio files in Reaper and transferring timecode files to your artist's backtrack system. I use LTC2 website to generate all my LTC audio files. I will attach the link in the description. Similarly to Reaper, we need to select frame rate, start time, and duration. I recommend setting the duration slightly longer than your song's duration, at least 30 seconds longer. I always use default sample rate and beat depth. If you have any doubts about these settings, you can go back to Reaper, Press right-click on the song or the click track, and then select Item Properties. Press Properties one more time in this window. Now we can see sample rate and beat depth of tracks which you got from your band. Most likely these settings are used for the backtracks of your band, and you need to select the same settings for the generated track. Go back to our website, press Generate, then press Download. We are downloading a zip archive, and we have a WAV file with this name. The file name shows us all the timecode settings. The folder with the audio files for our test project already contains the LTC timecode file, so we can just drag and drop it onto the empty track like we did it before with our files. From this moment, you can send this LTC audio file to a person who is responsible for importing it into the Backtrack project. The next important thing I want to talk about is the project settings. Go to the File menu, then Project Settings. In the first tab, which is also called Project Settings, we can find Project Start Time and set it up. It's important that the start time of the Reaper project has to be the same as the start time of the LTC timecode track or MIDI timecode track. The name of the LTC timecode file shows us that the start time is 0 hours and 30 minutes, and we are setting up the start time here in the project settings. The next important setting is frame rate. It's located in the Video tab. Similarly, the Reaper project's frame rate must match the frame rate of the timecode track. Set up our frame rate here and save settings. If you use MIDI timecode, go to the source properties of the MIDI timecode track one more time just in case, and check the frame rate and start time here. It has to match the project settings. Another important thing is the correct mode of the time ruler. Our time ruler is here. It must show the time in the format of our time code: hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Probably you have another format of time ruler by default, and if you need to change it, go to View menu, then Time Unit for Ruler, and select these options: hours, minutes, seconds, frames. For example, if your timer looks like this, just go to these settings and change it. A very useful option which can make our work in Reaper easier is BPM setting. BPM means beats per minute and kinda musical speed of our song. The easiest and most reliable way to find a song's BPM is simply to ask the band's musicians. The BPM setting is here. I've already known that the BPM of the song is 190. So I'm setting it up, and we can see that the project grid has changed. If we zoom in a little bit, we can see that the click sounds match the project grid now. This will help in setting up markers and searching for musical accents. The majority of our markers will match the grid. The following steps are important for the correct playback of our timecode project and for comfortable preprogramming. They involve setting up track routing in Reaper to send music and timecode to the correct outputs. If you are using MIDI timecode and sending it through a MIDI cable or interface or over a network connection, you go to Options menu, then Preferences, and now we see a group of audio settings in this window. Then we need to find MIDI Outputs tab. We see the list of our MIDI devices here. We need to click on the empty space in the Enable column next to our device. If you see a black dot here, it means that our MIDI interface is active now. If we double-click on the name of our MIDI device, we see a window of additional settings. If you have any latencies while your cues are playing back, Open Device in low latency mode might fix it. Then we go to the Audio Device tab. If necessary, we select our sound interface, which we use for listening to the song. If you only have one sound interface, you don't need to select anything here. If you have multiple interfaces, you need to select the one you need in the Output Device menu. The Direct Sound mode has to be selected in the Audio System menu. Press OK and close this window. Next step is setting up routing of our tracks. We can see the faders of our tracks in the left bottom part of Reaper window. Each fader has a color strip button. Press this button of our MIDI timecode track. We see the routing window now. Go to the MIDI hardware settings and select our MIDI interface in the pop-up menu. And that's it. Our MIDI timecode signal goes to the lighting console now. In most cases, you don't need to change default routing settings of our tracks if you use MIDI timecode signal. If you need to use LTC timecode, I recommend to use a multi-output sound interface, which has at least 4 outputs or more. To set up LTC routing, we go to Options, Preferences, and in the Audio group of settings, we select Device tab. And then we need to activate multi-channel mode of the sound interface. We need to select ASIO mode in the Audio System pop-up menu. Select our sound interface in the ASIO driver pop-up menu. Then select the first and the last outputs of the interface in the output range. Probably you have main output right as the last active output by default. And we need to select output 4 because our interface has 4 physical audio outputs. Important. Make sure you have installed the original audio drivers for your sound interface. Otherwise, audio drivers might not be visible here or might work incorrectly. If we press play, we can hear that the timecode track is playing along with our tracks. To fix this, we go to the routing settings of the LTC track and check Master Send Channel From To option, and then add a new output in the Audio Hardware output menu. It's output 3 in my case, and the LTC signal goes from this output to the LTC input of my console now. If we press play now, we can hear that the LTC timecode signal doesn't go to the audio system anymore. The last thing I want to talk about is using Reaper markers. Reaper's markers allow you to define and label specific points or sections within your project, such as song sections, track segments, or musical accents. Reaper allows you to transfer markers to a console's timeline and create empty cue lists containing the cue names and timing parameters from your markers by exporting them as CSV file. You need to set the cursor and press M on the keyboard to set a marker. And we can see that we have the first marker, which has a number but doesn't have a name. If you want to label your marker, double click on it and label it. Let's type intro. Also, there is a way to label a marker right after you set it up. Press Shift+M on the keyboard and we can see that this window appears immediately. Now we have our second marker. If you want to add a marker out of sequence, like between markers you set up earlier, it's possible. But we have to renumber all our markers. For example, we add one more marker here, and we see that numbers of markers are out of order. We need to fix it. Go to View menu, then Region Marker Manager. Now we can see the list of our markers. Press the right click in this window and select Renumber in timeline order. We can see that the numbers of our markers have changed. If you are done with setting up markers, you can export markers here in this window. Press right click and select Export Region Markers. And save our CSV file. I have already had the file with this name and I just overwrite it. That's it. The file now is ready to work with our lighting console. That's all I want to talk about today. If you have any questions, leave the comments below. Thank you for watching me. Bye.